Sure. Here is section 1 of the script with exactly 500 words, focused, emotionally sharp, and written for a faceless video format, adhering to all storytelling and infidelity drama principles. I used to believe I had the kind of marriage people envied. Daniel and I met in college. We were each other's first serious love, and it just worked so naturally, so effortlessly. After we got married, it felt like we had built a life full of trust, laughter, and real partnership. We bought a little house just outside the city. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. Every corner held a memory. Sunday mornings meant coffee in the kitchen, slow music, and dancing barefoot on the cold tile. I thought we were unshakable. Then there was Lena, my best friend since I was 12. We grew up 2 blocks apart, survived high school heartbreaks together, celebrated job offers, cried over our parents' divorces. She wasn't just a friend. She was family. I made her Daniel's friend too. They got along well, and I loved that. We'd have game nights, weekend brunches. Sometimes she stayed over when she was too tired to drive home. I never questioned it. I trusted them both completely. It never occurred to me that I shouldn't. I was the one who invited her into our home again and again. She knew everything about me, my insecurities, my routines, even when Daniel and I last fought. Sometimes she comforted me after those fights. Looking back, maybe that's when it started. There were little things I ignored. How they laughed a little too long at inside jokes I didn't understand. How she started texting him about things that didn't involve me. Just asking him about what wine to bring, she'd say. Or, he's helping me with my resume, don't be weird. I wasn't weird. I was naive. Daniel used to surprise me with flowers, notes in my lunch bag, random forehead kisses. Over time, those things slowed. I chalked it up to stress. Work had been hard on both of us. I didn't push it. I thought love evolved. I believed distance happened in all long-term relationships. Even when I noticed Lena starting to dress up more when she came over, I told myself I was being ridiculous. I didn't want to be one of those women, jealous, insecure. She was my best friend. And he was my husband. What was I even thinking? There was one night that still plays in my head like a broken record. I'd come downstairs unexpectedly to grab my charger. They were on the couch. Not touching, not doing anything. But the silence between them was loud. They jumped apart, like I had interrupted something they weren't supposed to be sharing. They both laughed it off. You scared us, Lena said. Daniel nodded too quickly. My gut twisted. I smiled anyway. I didn't know then that the people I loved the most were already choosing each other in moments I never saw. I didn't know I was already being replaced right there in my own home. But I would find out soon enough. And when I did, I wouldn't be able to unsee it. Let me know when you're ready for section 2, and I'll continue with the same precision. Here is section 2 of the script, exactly 500 words, continuing the story with emotional intensity, no repetition, and focused delivery. It was a Thursday. Normal on the surface. Daniel left for work early, said he had a late meeting. Lena hadn't texted me in 2 days, which was unusual. I told myself people get busy. Still, something about that morning felt hollow. I noticed his shirt was ironed, too crisp for someone who never cared much. He smelled like a new cologne I didn't recognize. Asked if he got a new bottle. He said no, maybe I was imagining it. That evening, I got a message from an unknown number. No words, just 2 pictures. One showed Daniel and Lena in a parking garage. He was holding her waist. The second, blurry but clear enough, showed them kissing. My hands went cold. I stared at the images until they blurred. At first, I convinced myself it wasn't real. Maybe it was old. Maybe it was doctored. But denial has a short shelf life when reality keeps knocking. I didn't cry. I felt nothing. Just a strange stillness. I waited for him to come home. He walked in like it was any other day. I watched him take off his shoes, pour a glass of water, check his phone. I asked him directly if something was going on between him and Lena. He blinked, laughed softly, called it absurd, said I was stressed. Then he walked over, looked me in the eyes, and told me he loved me, that nothing was going on. I showed him the pictures. He stared at them longer than he should have. Then he said they were misinterpreted. That Lena had gone through a breakup, and he was comforting her. That maybe the angle looked wrong. I listened, not because I believed him, but because I needed to hear how far he'd go with the lie. Later that night, I messaged Lena. I didn't accuse her. I just asked. Her reply came an hour later. One line. We didn't mean for it to happen. That sentence cracked something open inside me. No apology. No denial. Just confirmation. Casual and cruel. I called her. She didn't pick up. Then I called again. Voicemail. I sat there, phone in hand, not sure who I was angrier at. Her, for destroying 2 decades of friendship, or him, for making me question my own reality. Daniel tried to explain.
Said it was a mistake.
Just once. But the messages I found later told another story. Hotel bookings. A second phone he thought I'd never find. They had a whole routine. A private world built on lies, right behind my back. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was how normal everything had seemed while it was happening. They had sat at my table, shared food, smiled at my jokes. And I had loved them both, with every part of me. I didn't scream. I didn't cry, not yet. I just stared at the wall while he begged. The man I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone who didn't flinch when he shattered me. Ready for section 3? Let me know and I'll continue with the same sharpness. Here is section 3 of the script, written with clarity, emotional weight, and exactly 500 words. The days that followed were a blur. I didn't sleep much. Food lost its taste. The house felt haunted, not by ghosts, but by memories I no longer trusted. Every room held echoes of lies. The living room, where they sat side by side. The kitchen, where Lena once chopped onions while laughing at Daniel's bad jokes. I couldn't move without bumping into reminders of their betrayal. Daniel tried to apologize. Repeatedly. He wrote letters, left flowers, sent long texts I never answered. He wanted to talk. I had nothing left to say. The man who looked me in the eyes and lied wasn't someone I could ever trust again. I slept in the guest room for a while, then eventually left. Staying in that house felt like staying inside a lie. People talk about heartbreak like it's some dramatic explosion. Mine was quiet. It settled into my chest and stayed there. Heavy. I stopped replying to friends. I didn't explain anything. I couldn't bear the thought of them looking at me with pity. Or worse, judgment. Some had already taken sides. Some knew, or suspected, and never told me. That was its own kind of betrayal. I thought about confronting Lena in person. But what would I even say? That she broke something sacred? That she threw away 20 years of friendship for a man who lied so easily? I didn't want her reasons. I didn't need closure from her. She made a choice. So, did he? I kept asking myself what I missed.
Was I too trusting?
Did I stop being interesting? Did I hand over too much of myself and leave nothing to protect? The questions kept me awake. They whispered at me when I tried to rest. I stopped asking eventually, not because I found answers, but because I realized their choices had nothing to do with my worth. Therapy helped. Not right away. I sat through sessions in silence at first, arms crossed, pretending I was fine. But slowly, the words came. I admitted I felt hollow, angry, ashamed, and beneath all of it, deeply sad. Not just for what they did, but for everything I lost. My husband, my best friend, my sense of safety in my own life. I began to rebuild. Small things at first. I made coffee just for me, played music I liked, bought new sheets. I deleted pictures, blocked numbers, cleared out drawers. It didn't erase anything, but it made space. And space was what I needed. One morning, I caught myself humming while making breakfast. It was a moment. Not joy exactly, but peace. I stood there and thought, this is how it begins. Not with revenge. Not with confrontation. But with small, quiet decisions to keep going. They broke me in a way I wouldn't wish on anyone. But I was learning to breathe through the cracks. Not every day was good. But for the first time in a long time, some days were mine again. Let me know when you're ready for Section 4. Here is Section 4 of the script, with exactly 500 words, concluding the story with emotional closure, clarity, and strength. I didn't forgive them quickly. In fact, for a long time, I didn't think I ever would. But carrying that weight started to feel like a second betrayal, one I was doing to myself. So I let go. Not for them. For me. Forgiveness wasn't about excusing what they did. It was about refusing to let their choices define my future. I deserved better than to stay stuck in a moment I didn't choose. Daniel tried reaching out again 6 months later. A long email filled with memories, regrets, and lines about how he'd always love me. I didn't respond. He made his decision. And I made mine. I wasn't interested in recycled promises from someone who broke the most important one. Lena never said another word. No apology. No explanation. Just disappeared. Maybe she thought silence was easier. Maybe she convinced herself it wasn't her fault. I stopped wondering. Whatever story she tells herself, it's not my concern anymore. Her absence is loud, but peaceful. I moved out of the city, rented a small place near the water. No shared history. No familiar faces. Just space to breathe. I filled the silence with books, walks, new music, things that belonged only to me. I learned how to be alone without being lonely. It surprised me how much of myself I'd put aside in that marriage. How easy it was to forget who I was before I was someone's wife. Healing isn't a straight line. Some days I missed what I thought we had. Not him. Not her. Just the version of life I believed in. I missed the illusion. But then I'd remember it was never real. They took that from me. But I was the one who decided not to stay broken. There were nights I'd cry, without warning. Grief doesn't ask permission. But the difference now was I didn't hide from it. I let it come, and then I let it go. It passed quicker each time. And in the quiet left behind, I found strength I didn't know I had. People think betrayal destroys you. It doesn't. It changes you. It strips away the illusion, yes, but what's left is raw and real. And from that place you rebuild. You learn how to protect your peace. You learn how to trust your instincts. Most of all, you learn that the worst thing someone can do to you doesn't have to be the end of your story. I don't hate them. I don't need to. They have to live with what they did. I have to live with what I survived. And honestly, I like my side of the story better. It's not a fairy tale. It's not even tied up in a neat ending. But it's mine.
And it's honest.
I forgave. I moved on. I rebuilt. But I will never forget. Not because I'm bitter, but because remembering reminds me how far I've come. And I'm never going back. Let me know if you'd like this formatted for narration or paired with visual/music suggestions for a faceless video.